Today's presentation is called Socially Networked: What Every Teen Should Know. While many of you start to get smartphones and you start using a wide variety of social media apps, we want to make sure that you make good decisions out there, because poor decisions that you make today can affect your life later on. So we want to make sure that you are using social networking responsibly. I've been working on this presentation for more than a decade. Each year, I keep updating it with new information to help out our JTL students. First, let's take a look at some basic internet facts. These are the most visited sites in the United States as of December 2020. You can see Google, YouTube, and Facebook are the top three. And you'll also notice on this page that Facebook and Twitter are two what we would call social media sites. YouTube is also in there a little bit because it has some social media aspects to it, but please notice that some of the things that you may use, like Snapchat, for example, and even Instagram is down towards the bottom. These are things that you should be aware of, and you should know where a majority of our population is going to use different websites. This is important for you because where there's a larger population, there's a possibility of you sharing information that you don't want to share. So you need to be careful. Next, let's take a look specifically at the social media sites that are used in the United States. Look at Facebook, 2.23 billion users. And while many in your generation do not use Facebook, most adults and even older teenagers use Facebook. Social media, you want to get in touch with a large number of people, and most people want to be involved with Facebook because it has the most users. YouTube is also up there with 1.9 billion. A couple others that you should be aware of. Instagram is at 1 billion users. So for those Instagram users out there, and even Snapchat users at 255 million, that's a lot of people that have the ability to see your information. TikTok has moved up quite a bit in the last year. It now has 500 million users regularly. And Twitter, while many middle school students don't use it too much, a lot of our high school students do, because that's where their coaches post their information, schedules, and those types of things. Twitter has 335 million users. So some of the things that you're using do have a lot of users, but know that Facebook is the end-all be-all right now of social media. More people use that than any of the others. In East Stroudsburg, 13 to 14-year-olds tend to use Snapchat and Instagram. Our 16 and 17-year-olds prefer to use Facebook and Twitter more, as I had mentioned on the previous slide. That's because that's what their peers are using, and it's what their coaches are using. It's what they're required to have. Students use networks generally that their friends use. So if your friend says, hey, I just got a Snap account, chances are you'll be more likely to get Snapchat. But the largest social media users are between the ages of 19 and 29 years old. It is not your age group of teenagers that are at JTL from 11 to about 14. That is not the largest group. 19 to 29-year-olds are leaving high school. They're going into college a lot of times. They're going to trade schools. They're getting jobs. So they have a tendency to be moving around. Social media works well for them because they're what we call transitioning. They need social media to get jobs, to stay in touch with friends after they move from one place to another. And just so you're aware, this group also has a tendency to generate a large amount of criminal activity, and because they have the largest incarceration rate in the United States, that particular age group. So you want to be very, very careful, because teenagers are not the biggest users of social media. It's an age group that is much older and much more mature than you. So the bottom line is, be very, very careful with the social media that you have, and be careful what you present out there about yourself. One of the things that most students run into is the ability to take a portable device like a cell phone, and you can immediately distribute information. So an example that I use, and you can see this over on the side, Mr. Reichel had asked me to take a picture of a Broadway Showstoppers musical that was going on, that was sponsored by our Cavalier Voices. And I was able to take the picture, and I hit my little Twitter, hit the little Twitter button at the bottom, and I was able to actually tweet it. And in a matter of minutes, Mr. Reichel had spread it out, and we had hundreds of people liking the post that I'd put out there. It's very easy, without thinking, to put pictures out there that might be inappropriate, or inappropriate videos or text messages. You always want to be very careful. Think before you post. Media can be posted without thinking first, and that's where a lot of our students wind up getting in trouble. Be cautious with what you post. One of the things you need to know is that if you post information online, it is never private. Anyone could potentially see information over your shoulder. Anyone can receive or print out a message, and then that can be hand distributed to other people. So you want to be very, very careful, and remember that your information is never private, and you are posting to potentially millions of viewers when you use any of the different forms of social media that we've talked about. You need to make sure that you protect your information, and these particular items that I have listed here are the most important things. First of all, never publish your first and last name together. If you use your first name and your middle name, that's always fine. Never put down your home address. Many of you don't live, you live in remote areas. You never want somebody being able to follow you. So avoid putting a home address into any information. Never put a phone number or a cell phone number. Those can be tracked. And I know a lot of times when you sign up for something even as simple as Snapchat or Instagram, they want you to put in a cell phone number. You don't have to do that. You can go back into your profile and remove it. It's the most important thing to make sure that you do not have a phone number or a cell phone number in those profiles. Don't post your age. First of all, you have to be 13 to have most of these social media sites anyway. And as a teacher for many years in this district, I know we have students younger than 13 getting into social media sites. But please do not post your age. And do not post your school. All of these things and combinations of these things can make it easy for someone to find you or track you down. This is an important fact to know. It takes years to build a good reputation, to build good character. But in a split second with just one wrong decision, your character can be destroyed forever. Remember, the things that you post can be seen by your parents, by your friends, by family members, by teachers, by coaches, by employers, and by college admissions advisors who are getting the next generation of student into their colleges. You want to make a good impression. And sometimes, if you think about the last thing that you've posted, is that something that you would want your parents to see, or your friends to see, or your coach, or a potential boss? So it's important that you're careful. I know for a fact that employers will check your social media. College admissions advisors will check your social media to see what it is that you're looking at. So be very, very cautious with what you post. Always stay in good character. Even if you're angry with a friend, talk to the friend. Don't go on Snap, don't go on Instagram and post negative things about somebody. It's the worst thing you can do. It will destroy your character. If you plan on putting digital pictures online, you want to make sure that the pictures are always appropriate. This applies to all social media, anything that you would text. And those social medias involve Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter. All those things, you need to make sure that your pictures are upstanding, that your mother would never want to be upset with anything that you posted. And this is what we call the ultimate test. It's called the mom test or the grandma test. If your mother would not like your picture, don't post it. Always think to yourself before you post a picture, if your mother or grandmother was going to see it, would they be okay with it? That's the test you always want to use. Now, I do have some safety tips to help make sure that you do good things if you are using social media. First of all, do not share account information or passwords. You should not have multiple people using an Instagram account. Everybody should have their own account. You can follow your friends, but whatever you do, don't allow multiple people into the same account. That can become a big disciplinary problem for you. It is possible your account information can be saved on somebody else's hardware. Don't ever log into somebody else's phone or somebody else's computer. If it doesn't belong to you, don't log into those accounts. You can wait. It's very important that you do not log in to your own accounts on somebody else's devices, because a lot of times that account information can be saved, and then somebody would have access to your accounts. Now, cyberbullying is an important topic that we are going to talk about briefly. And these are 3 very important things that I recommend if you feel that you are being cyberbullied. You need to do these 3 things. First, tell an adult. If you are threatened or bullied online, you need to let the adult know. This can be a teacher, a counselor, or a parent. And a parent is probably the best thing because they can help guide you with the best way to get yourself out of this potentially dangerous situation. The second thing that's very important, never respond to an inappropriate post. If somebody threatens you and you threaten them back, you've both threatened each other. You're both guilty, even if they did it to you first. It's just like a fight. If you go over and hit somebody, you're guilty. If they come back and hit you, you're both guilty. You're both guilty of assault. So whatever you do, don't respond to an inappropriate post. You don't want to be a person who is threatening or bullying somebody else. The third thing, if they sent you an inappropriate text, print it out. And don't just print out what they sent you. Print out what was the text above it. Was there a particular incident that happened? People in law enforcement and people who make the decisions of how they're going to handle the cyberbullying, it really matters that they get a full idea of the conversation. Did you say something that could have put you into a situation that somebody else is upset about? It's important that you print out the whole conversation so that the officials that have to look at this potential bullying are able to see the whole picture, not just what you tell them. Most cyberbullying, just so you know, happens between the ages of 9 and 14. And that is really a dangerous age. All of my 6th grade students that are watching this fall in between there. And I know this happens frequently because people feel comfortable sitting behind a phone or a keyboard when they're not right there. But remember, you can negatively impact people with what you write. Always be kind online. That's the best policy. And if you know that someone is hurting, please remind them to see an adult, don't respond, and make sure you print out the evidence of the bullying. Email me at donald-toth@esasd.net if you have any questions.